Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jose Cruz, and you're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio. Our guest today is Dr. Gladys. She is the president and CEO of, I know this is French. It's got to be. It's got to act smart. Sommet. Wow. Enterprises, pronounced Sommet. Okay, and you had the pronunciation for me, so that's fantastic. So glad to have you in the studio with you. We have a little bit of a history because you've been on the board of directors of the San Diego Council on Literacy. But you actually came in as a college student, research person, somebody getting a degree and such. Tell us about your interests, how you got to where you are right now with your company.
Sure. Staging it back to my interface with the San Diego Council on Literacy, actually, I was working on a project to do an overall 5-10-year business plan. For a nonprofit. So I specifically looked at the San Diego Council on Literacy. I was working on my doctorate, and so this was a major program and opportunity for me to understand the organization a little bit better, got involved more with it after my graduation, and really highly support the San Diego Council on Literacy.
You bet. Yeah. So tell us about your thesis, your doctorate and such. What was the focus of it?
Okay, the focus of it was at the time, very contemporary and still is, surprisingly. The focus goes to the role of the remote worker, the invisible worker, the person who has been given, quote, the opportunity to work at home. And that has its upsides and its downsides. And corporates face the challenges of looking at, before I shut the doors and send people home, what's really going to happen?
Right.
How do I lead? And the odd part is that most leaders believe, oh, hey, send this dude out the door, give him or her a laptop, and I'm done. My job is finished. They'll just go off and work. And sadly, it requires more leadership rather than less leadership because it's so easy for that person to feel so disengaged from the organization.
So let's come back to, you and I were talking before the show, so how are we tying this into literacy? And it really is a whole lot about how we're communicating, not just leading, but sharing leadership, how we're functioning, running our businesses, whether they're for-profit or nonprofit, which is one reason literacy organizations would want to be interested in the content and your book, which we'll talk about. But just, what things that are happening in the future, things that are trending. If you're not out there in the real world, you might not know that this is where we're heading to closing down our offices. It saves money. It's good for the environment, right? All of those good things. And at the same time, you still have to run a company. And we're having a hard enough time as leaders being good leaders. And so, right, so now it's like, okay, now I don't get to see the people that I'm working with. So how, given that, and we're going to go in and out of this topic, given that, what are the things that people in general have to get used to, the employees, and then, of course, the CEOs of the executive directors of these organizations?
One of the biggest challenges is the issue called trust. Can you trust people? Sometimes old school managers believe, if I can't see you and see that you're working, then you must not be working. People in management sometimes view the situation as a perk, and therefore that person doesn't really deserve a raise in pay, doesn't deserve a promotion, doesn't deserve training, because they already have the ultimate work of wearing fuzzy bunny slippers all day long.
Right.
And being able to do chores around the house, take care of the kids, all that sort of thing. So the worker, the invisible worker, has a challenge in trying to be visible. The invisible leader has the challenge of coming to terms with trust, trusting the individual and looking at outcomes.
Boy, this is going to be tough. I mean, as I think about it, and maybe we have evolved to an extent with the technology, and we have Skype and such, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's a little bit easier now. When you say traditional worker or traditional leader, I think of that. I think back 40 years, and guys, they're still smoking in the boardroom and all that, and pretty much it's very hierarchical. It's in terms of things versus where I think we value collaborative leadership and shared leadership nowadays. So this could be a real leap for that person who probably is used to running things and I want to say tactile, but it's not tactile. It's live.
Yeah.
What we would call live. So there's the new definition of live, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you find that there are challenges for the worker and there are challenges for the leader. Not everyone is suited to work invisibly, not suited to work remotely. That's something that requires training and development to be sure that you actually fit in this and you can be comfortable with it. The fact is that one of the worst punishments you get in prison is what? Solitary confinement.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the worker who is at home working on his or her own faces the real challenge of dealing with the issue of solitary. So that's something that our invisible workers have to come to terms with. Additionally, the invisible leaders have to come to terms with the fact that the single most important thing that you can have for an invisible employee is care and concern.
Right.
It needs to be more than, where's the deliverable for today? Did you finish the assignment for today? It has to include things like, how's the family doing? What was the result of that soccer game on Saturday?
Right.
How did your little boy or girl do in the game? Did they score? Actually care and concern.
Well, things that you might do in the office. I mean, why let those go away? I had the experience just for a short while working on contract. And that meant I was working from home.
Yes.
And it was not easy for me. If I got anyone on the phone, I wasn't letting them go because it was solitary confinement, and there was no line. And so, can you talk to that? Because you're tempted to roll out of bed, which I was doing that, rolling out of bed onto my computer on my seat and thinking that, well, I'm going to get more done, and I wasn't more productive. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes total sense. In fact, I know people who don't even roll out of bed. They'll take their first conference call in the morning from bed.
From bed,
yes.
okay, right. Yeah.
Some will have their laptop just sitting right or on the bed right next to them. Yeah. So there are adjustments that get made. Psychology and research tells us that when you suit up, when you're sitting at a defined space or standing at your desk, that gives you a greater sense of psychological capability to go ahead and address the day. It's not unlike people who make their bed in the morning tend to get more done during the day. Who knows why? How stupid does that sound? Right. But it actually works.
And it's psychological. I just remember talking to someone. She kind of helped get me straightened out. And she said, look, Jose, when I was doing this work, I was taking my shower at 4:30 in the afternoon. When are you taking your shower? And I was like, oh, my God, I was taking it at 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get up and shower and dress and have breakfast and treat it like it's a regular day. So I think part of it is just thinking about what to do as a routine, right?
Yeah.
And not to let that get away from you. So I mean this is really it's not just the invisible leader or the invisible employee. It really is a whole lot of, what you've taken on is a whole conversation about the future that we're not having enough. Is there training out there for people?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, So Many Enterprises offers this as corporate development. And I don't look at it as training per se. I look at it as development. Why? Training is something you go in, you learn a new system, one day you're in and out. Development is something a little more long-term that you take in, we'll call it chunks. You'll have a form of training or developmental interface maybe once a week for several months to get to that point. So it is developmental training for leaders and for workers.
Okay.
Because it does require that.
It does. It does. It's a whole other thing. Are big companies doing this? Who's doing this?
Absolutely. Big companies are engaging in this as well, especially those who have a stronger sense of the import of maximizing the effectiveness of their individual workers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen a lot of research in this from companies such as Gallup, for example. Gallup looks into this and understands it very, very well. Other companies, including companies like IBM, understand this, having been one of the first companies to launch it. In fact, I believe the very first company that got into this world was JCPenney.
What? Really?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't have guessed
And it
that.
started many, many years ago.
Okay.
If it wasn't for the technological work of Dr. Niles from USC decades ago in the technology realm, we wouldn't even be on this path today.
Interesting.
Or perhaps not. Perhaps later.
Because we're looking at a different rationale for doing this,
Right.
And so one of them is the cost of having an office, and other is the environment. But what I want to talk more about and have you share more with us, and we're going to break in a few seconds here, is the research showing that employees perform better when they have this particular format? And I think we're going to be surprised by the answer, because I think you kind of hint to that. Is that, are you kidding me? Because kind of, our way of thinking is, if you're not watching your workers, then they're not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
That their supervision is just required because of human nature, but not necessarily so.
Yeah.
And so I want to come back to that. And again, I do want folks to know about your book, The Invisible Leader,
Mm-hmm.
and how they can get a copy, and just more of the content, because this is really special to have you in the studio to talk about this, because this is the future. This is it. We're here now. Hey, we're in the studio here with Dr. Ann Gladys, and you're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk, and we'll be right back.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book, Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Homeless veterans and their families are suffering and need our support, but many won't ask or don't know that help is within reach. Veterans Community Services is here to help. Amazingly, about 35% of the homeless in our neighborhoods are veterans with families. Low-income veterans or their friends are encouraged to contact Veterans Community Services and reach out for help with housing and other services. Call now, 800-974-9909.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Donate cash, furniture, clothes, and other gently used household items to Father Joe's Villages and get a nice tax break in April. Every donation is tax deductible. Believe you can make a difference. Be Father Joe. Go to neighborhood.org or call 1-800-HOMELESS to donate today.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back. I'm Jose Cruz. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio. Our guest is Dr. Ann Gladys, and she is the president and CEO of Sommet Enterprises, pronounced Sommet. Good, I got it right again. And she's talking to us about concepts that she shares in her book, The Invisible Leader. And this is really about the remote office and just what we're seeing trending with businesses, nonprofit organizations, which is why we think our literacy friends out there would be interested in this topic. So the question I had right before break was, is the research showing that employees work better under the remote office format?
Actually, we've seen it go both ways. I have to give you a lawyer answer. Mm-hmm. The lawyer answer, when you ask a lawyer a question, is, well, it depends. Mm-hmm. Okay, and what it comes down to is the leadership that's involved and whether the person is suited to be working off-site. And so what we find is that for situations where you have a strong leader in something called transformational leadership, the inspirational leader, the motivational leader, the charismatic leader, the person who actually gives a damn, what we find is an increase in productivity of as much as 40%.
Man.
Which is incredible. Mm-hmm. But you can also find your metrics go down. So what's a successful virtual organization? One whose metrics are as good as or better than what it was in the brick and mortar situation.
Okay.
So you have to see an improvement. Well, what improvement where? In things like productivity, in revenue, in employee attendance, in employee retention. People will walk if they're not happy.
Yes, nowadays more so.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is the adage that people don't leave jobs, they leave their boss. Mm-hmm. And so you used a word just before break that I think is really important for people to hug. Mm-hmm. And that is there's a profound difference between a supervisor and a manager and a leader. And you use the term supervision because they're not getting supervision. Mm-hmm. And in the day and age of professional employees, because a lot of employees are in fact professional to the extent that they're doing more cerebral kinds of jobs, supervision doesn't hold. Supervision is more for the industrial complex.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now, when you get into management, that's the person who's interested in the metrics and tracking them along. Operations, for example. The leader is the person who's what? That's the influencer. That's the person who influences people to do a better job and be as good as they can possibly be. So leaders in a virtual workspace are so important. And it's so critical that they be transformational by form.
You know, again, you've opened up a can of worms here. I mean, some of these are old concepts that nobody actually. I mean, I picked it up along the way, but I never got the breakdown that you just gave me and our listeners on what is a supervisor, what's a manager, what is a leader, what is the difference, and what are the roles, because there are different roles and different outcomes as a result of which one of those styles are you adopting.
Yeah.
So quite interesting. I guess you'd have to know about these things to be able to do the work that you've done and put together the book that you've written.
The supervisor is the least effective person in a virtual environment. Let me give you an example of a supervisor gone wrong in the remote environment. Okay, so John tells Mary she can work at home. He's not real happy about this, but he's got to cut his workplace size. And so she goes home to work. He says, now you can do this, and it's a real perk, but I want you to have your camera on all the time so I can watch you. Okay, no eating Twinkies, no picking one's nose.
And do you have case stories of things like this?
Yes,
boy.
I do.
Wow.
Live, yes. So supervision doesn't work in the remote environment. Management does to some extent, but it doesn't keep people happy.
Yeah.
The really good leader, the transformational leader in this environment is the one who scores, the one who cares about people.
Very good. Okay. Well, that works for me. I mean, I put myself in that. I'm not a great manager. I wasn't schooled in it. I'm not a disciplinarian. I'm not linear. I'm not concrete. I'm abstract, random. And so, I mean, it's a good thing I'm in the nonprofit arena. And some people would scream that I just said that because it's still a business, right? But it's also very important that you recognize that people come into your particular realm of work because they have a heart and they want to make a difference. I mean, that's what a lot of what nonprofit work is about. Would it also be safe to say that because you're more productive because you have less interruptions when you right?
And hopefully fewer distractions? Yes.
Okay. All right.
But you can always run the risk of going down a rabbit hole. And we face this just simply because of the technological environment. You're reading an article, right? And the first thing you see is a hyperlink to something else that's related. You go, oh, man, I got to click on that.
Right.
Okay, and so you go down that rabbit hole that has another hyperlink, and you go to that one. Before you know it, you haven't done what you set out to do.
Sure. Well, and that distraction is there in the regular
in the
workplace,
regular world, too.
So you have
Sure.
to watch for that. Now I always worried that I would be distracted by the refrigerator. The television.
Did you read that chapter in my book?
I haven't gotten that far yet, but I think I actually did read that part. And
the story of was it Bob? Yeah, I think.
But it didn't happen. It was the opposite. That I became maybe obsessed with the work, but I was burning out.
Yeah,
and so it was out of balance.
Yeah, So. You can spend too many hours. We find in research that of the gender situation, that women tend to overwork it more and spend too many hours, perhaps because of the whole idea of being on the home front. But they want to keep that perk, and to keep it, sometimes they work too many hours and get a little bit out of balance on how much time they invest in work at home.
Yeah, and what you will lose, I mean, we have to admit that, is when you leave home to go to work, you've left. When you leave work to go home, you're happy that you're home. But when you're working from home, you don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so maybe more important then that you do draw the line to an extent, right?
That you get up during the day and you actually take a break, get outside, take a walk. You would normally perhaps go to the water cooler and chat with somebody in the office.
Right.
Get up, go outside, take a walk. I've been known to work with my folks and actually have teleconferences with the requirement that we both be outside walking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like
Let's
it.
walk this meeting.
Right. Now, would you say you're a remote worker now?
Oh, yeah. And by the way, I have been for many years. Remote work doesn't necessarily mean at home. It means you're not co-located with your immediate upline. And so for decades, I was in an office not located with the person who called the shots.
Very good. So what's happening next? Do you have a new book in mind? I mean, here's what's happening right now. I see this, Ann, because I know that you wanted to get your doctorate. You did. You wrote your thesis. You wrote a book. Maybe you planned on doing that. Maybe you didn't. But now you're a magnet for a discussion on this topic. Now you're sharing, but you're also collecting information, and then things are still changing. Do you have some ideas what you want to do with your company?
Like when I grow up?
If you grow up.
Yeah, actually, the Invisible Leader is the first in a series. The next is the Invisible Worker and the special kinds of needs and development that person needs. The one after that is the Invisible Professor. And then the invisible student. What we find in academia, and I teach in 3 different doctoral programs, what we find in academia is that the retention rate is lower or very difficult in a purely online environment to retain students. They don't have the visible colleagues that they interact with, and they don't have that special kind of relationship with the professor that you can have in a brick and mortar classroom environment. So those books speak to that. But then the ultimate goes to the invisible client, because most of us shop and do our business online.
Yeah.
How do you retain people? The cost of customer acquisition is high. How do you keep customers when they are invisible and remote?
Very good. Just a couple things. We got about a minute and a half, but I have the answer to the question, because we talked about how this impacted literacy. This is actually a bigger transition for professionals than in a way it is for students. That we already have the learning apps, learning upgrade. I mean, some of the best things are on apps where people are sitting waiting for their clothes to dry at the coin laundry, and they're learning English, or they're learning phonics, or whatever the case is. So that kind of learning using the technology is taking place. We're talking about, in this case, running a business, and that's a big leap. Are you doing trainings? Are you consulting now?
Yes.
Right.
And it's leadership development training.
Okay.
Leadership development.
Boy, do we need that.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's an ongoing requirement.
Tell us how folks can get in touch with you, where they can get your book.
Sure. The book is available on Amazon, The Invisible Leader, by Dr. Gladys. And you can get in touch with me at Gladys at SommeEnterprises.com. Somme is spelled SOMMET. And the information about follow-up with me and for training is also located within the book.
Very good. Well, you've written a not just a informative book, but a reader-friendly. I'm almost done with it. It's just, I have so many things to read, but I enjoy it. I mean, you're accommodating the modern readers, so I just want to applaud you for that.
Well,
too.
thank you.
And for this information. We've been on with Dr. Gladys, and I'm Jose Cruz. You've been listening to the Literacy for All radio show. We're on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Thank you, Jose.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. MOZEguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. MCAULIFFE. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.